Trump versus China. Two superpowers now locked in the first crypto war of the century. Something historic is happening. The most powerful nations on Earth are no longer fighting for land or oil. They're fighting for control of Bitcoin and the future of money. This isn't theory or speculation anymore either. It's unfolding in real time. President Trump said, I quote, "I only care about one thing. We will be number one in crypto. China is getting into it very big," he said. That single quote lit the fuse. What Trump said out loud is what every global leader is now thinking. The United States and China are officially in a race to dominate the next era of finance. And in this video, we're breaking down how that war is taking shape, who's leading, where Bitcoin fits in, and what it means for every investor watching right now. So if you're holding Bitcoin, thinking of holding Bitcoin, or holding other blue chip tokens, this video is for you. We need to understand what is going on a macro level as it pertains to Bitcoin, so we know what is coming and we know how to be prepared. That said, let's get into today's video. For years, US policymakers treated Bitcoin like a threat. That just changed. The conversation now sounds like a playbook for digital dominance. Trump's comments, along with the ongoing tariff negotiations about China, mark a total shift in tone of voice. China, which spent years banning crypto exchanges, mining operations, and foreign trading platforms, is now rebuilding its digital asset infrastructure through Hong Kong and state-linked projects. So the very government that once pushed miners out is quietly preparing to compete in the global blockchain era. And across the Atlantic, British politician Nigel Farage, best known for leading the Brexit movement and challenging the European Union's financial bureaucracy, said the following. He said, "There's a global boom in Bitcoin and crypto, and we should be leading the world." Now, I personally hope this is the beginning of forward thinking in the UK, because we know it's been kind of falling behind in other regards, including censoring free speech, but that's a different topic for a different time. Anyway, his words show how established voices across Europe are beginning to adopt digital assets as part of their broader economic strategy. And at the same time, the financial system is building infrastructure around this new reality. Strategy, Michael Saylor's company, just added another 397 Bitcoin to its balance sheet, which is why you don't need to be afraid of the market and the prices when they dip. All you need to do is model after people like Michael Saylor, Strategy, and all of these financial institutions doubling down on Bitcoin when the prices go down. Because Bitcoin's price will go up. It will be worth $1 million a day or more. It's just a matter of time. And in the meantime, all you have to do is accumulate like they are. We also see that Bitmine has accumulated 82,300 Ethereum, worth about $305.8 million. This is conviction capital flowing from the American elite into digital assets because they understand its fundamental value. When Trump talks policy, when Saylor deploys capital, and when Farage calls for leadership, it signals that the West, from Washington to London, now views Bitcoin as a strategic pillar for the next era of finance. Now let's talk about what's going on in the East and China's silent expansion. Because while the West debates regulation, China is already executing its plan. Beijing's goal is clear. Reduce reliance on the dollar. Through the BRICS bloc, China is developing gold-backed settlements, commodity corridors, and cross-border payment systems that run on digital rails rather than traditional networks like SWIFT. Hong Kong is reopening crypto channels and serving as China's offshore liquidity hub. The West is focused on ETFs, while China is focused on infrastructure. The US is mobilizing capital through Wall Street, and China is mobilizing the systems that move global money. This new race is built on control and motivated on dominance. The nations that master financial infrastructure will shape how money moves across the world. And that's why it's so important to stay plugged into the news no matter what's going on with the price of Bitcoin and top blue chip tokens, because these are the conversations that will inform you of what is happening in the world. And frankly, should reinforce your conviction and belief in decentralized finance and Bitcoin, that these world governments, as they race for power, cannot and will not be able to control. Which means ultimately they won't be able to control you as a person. So now let's shift gears and talk about the liquidity battlefield. Because every financial war is won with liquidity. And that liquidity is now starting to move. After 2 years of aggressive tightening, we know the Federal Reserve has shifted from hawkish to neutral. The Fed Communication Index confirms that tone change, showing that the peak of quantitative tightening is behind us. Quantitative tightening, or known as QT, is the process of draining money from the system by shrinking the Fed's balance sheet. That phase is fading, and liquidity is starting to return. The US government has extended its debt limit, restarted spending, and begun injecting new liquidity into the system. Capital that will start flowing into markets over the next few weeks. And at the same time, China's PBOC continues to ease, adding fuel to the global money supply. This is what traders call a liquidity pivot, the moment when global cash levels expand again and risk assets, especially those tied to crypto, begin to reawaken. You can already see it on chain. Bybit's latest proof of reserves shows Bitcoin holdings down 3.1%, Ethereum down 5%, and USDT up nearly 28% to 6.39 billion. The surge in stablecoins shows traders are accumulating and preparing for the next major move. And total stablecoin supply across networks is climbing to new yearly highs. Capital across crypto is consolidating and building momentum. And as that liquidity flows back into markets, the next rotation will take shape, guys. It's just a matter of time. So just be patient, don't despair, stay ready, stay plugged in. Now let's talk about Bitcoin, known as the neutral weapon. We know Bitcoin has become the only neutral weapon in this war, the bridge between two competing empires. Over the past month, on-chain data shows a major realignment of supply. Institutional inflows have slowed. Yet the market continues to hold above $100,000, even as long-term holders, or OG wallets, begin to distribute coins accumulated years ago. This selling represents rotation within the market. Early holders are realizing profits into strength, and that supply is being absorbed by ETFs and long-term institutional buyers. Retail investors remain mostly absent, allowing professional capital to shape market structure. And Glassnode data shows this process unfolding. BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF inflows have dropped from more than 10,000 BTC per week to under 600, yet price remains steady. Stability comes from the handoff. Older coins moving out as institutional liquidity steps in. And historically, when supply transfers from early adopters to structured funds during periods of consolidation, it marks the midpoint of accumulation before the next major advance. Bitcoin's current strength reflects structural progress in the market. OGs are distributing, institutions are building positions, and the network continues to expand. This phase defines the transition from speculative trading to a foundation of global finance. And the macro backdrop has reached a defining moment as well. Global markets are showing strength. while crypto continues to hold its breath. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are both pushing toward record highs as Bitcoin trades sideways. Tom Lee projects the S&P could reach 7,100 this month and expects Bitcoin to follow with a move towards $200,000. That's why I was saying don't despair and just be patient, it's coming. That says, Tom Lee expects this within the next 60 days, the next 2 months. Because we know, historically, bull run years end bullish near the holidays. And these forecasts are grounded in liquidity rather than speculation this time. The same wave that lifted every major asset class in previous cycles is now starting to build again. And seasonality adds another layer to the setup, as I was saying. November has historically been one of the strongest months for markets since 1927, with the S&P posting gains nearly 60% of the time. The pattern, combined with a more dovish Federal Reserve, renewed Chinese stimulus, and capital waiting on the sidelines, creates a rare alignment across both traditional and digital assets. And once that liquidity begins to move, the effect is rarely slow. When policy, sentiment, and money flow align, markets react fast, and the next expansion phase begins. So as we close out today's video, remember the US seeks to dominate through innovation. China pursues control through infrastructure, and both are racing to define the monetary standard of the next century. At the center of all of this lies Bitcoin, the only monetary network beyond national control, as I was saying. And over the next decade, two financial systems will compete to tokenize the world, while one neutral network grows beneath them and unifies them, frankly. Every ETF, every digital currency law, and every new liquidity wave strengthens Bitcoin's role as the foundation of programmable global money. Money for the people, by the people. Empires rise on liquidity and fall on debt. Networks rise on adoption. Bitcoin's adoption curve is still climbing. We're still early. We're living through a once-in-a-generation reset. The moment nations compete to master crypto and shape the future of money itself. And when Trump says, we will be number one in crypto, he isn't talking about politics. He's talking about power, the ability to command the next century of finance. The US and China crypto war has officially begun, and that conflict is creating the greatest opportunity of our lifetime. So you don't need to be afraid. All you need to do is try to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, because it will also be directly linked to your freedom in the future. So if you're watching this channel, you're already ahead of 99% of everyone out there. All you have to do is not mess up. So stay focused, stay informed, stay excited, stay ready. And remember, money is changing hands right now. And hopefully you're on the right side of history. I really hope you are. I love you guys so much. Happy Monday again. I hope you had a great weekend. And if you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so and like the video, because it helps us spread the word. It helps us educate and have the algorithm spread my content to more people. I'll catch you guys here tomorrow.